This happened a few weeks ago. I was on assignment to explore haunted cemeteries in rural Kentucky. I'm 35 and really struggling with my job, so I thought this could be a good chance to revive my career. It turned out to be a lot more than I bargained for. I stood at the old Maple Grove Cemetery. The air was thick and damp. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my nerves, and clicked my camera. It felt quiet. Just me and a handful of gravestones. I moved cautiously, my shoes crunching on the gravel path. Suddenly, I felt a chill. The hair on the back of my neck stood up. I shook it off, thinking maybe it was just the wind. As the sun dipped below the horizon, shadows stretched across the ground. I stepped deeper into the cemetery. Around midnight, I heard something, a soft sound. It was almost like sobbing. I stopped and turned, but there was no one around. A tightness gripped my chest, but I brushed it off. It was just the wind or my imagination. I kept visiting more cemeteries over the next few days. Each location felt strange. At Willow Creek Cemetery, the old lanterns flickered violently. I glanced around, half expecting someone to be there, but I was all alone. My heart raced, but I told myself it was just faulty wiring. Later, at a third cemetery, I could have sworn I saw a figure dart behind a headstone. My stomach dropped, but when I called out, only silence greeted me. Then came the whispers. I don't know what it was, but they kept calling my name, just like a child would. Each time I heard it, icy fingers gripped my spine. I aimed my voice recorder at the air, unsure what to catch, but I knew I needed to document this. When I played it back later, there was nothing but static. My final encounter was the worst. I stood at the edge of the old hollow cemetery, my breath visible in the cold night air. Suddenly, I felt something brush against my shoulder. I whipped around, and there was a shadow behind me, a tall, dark figure. I blinked, and it was gone. My heart pounded. Was I going crazy? I didn't know if I was unraveling from work pressure or witnessing lost souls. By the end of my journey, I had more questions than answers. Were these experiences real, or did I disturb something I shouldn't have? Then, out of the blue, a voice whispered, clear as day, "Why did you come here?" I spun around, but no one was there. A chill ran down my spine. I took a step back, confusion washing over me. Was it really just my mind playing tricks? I left Kentucky days later with a strange feeling deep in my gut. I still can't shake the voices or the shadows. Those cemeteries felt like they were hiding something, but what? I wonder if I should have ever gone there in the first place. The drive back home felt longer than usual. Each bump in the road sent shivers through my body. I could still hear those whispers echoing in my mind. I tried to convince myself it was all in my head, just the result of exhaustion. But deep down, a sense of dread began to settle over me. When I finally arrived home, the familiar surroundings felt alien. My living room, usually a sanctuary, felt off. I poured myself a glass of water, needing to clear my mind. As I sipped, a noise shattered the silence. Something tapped lightly on my front window. I jumped, nearly spilling the water all over myself. Peering through the sheer curtains, I saw nothing. Just darkness. I took a breath, trying to calm my racing heart. It was probably just a branch swaying in the wind. Yet, as the night dragged on, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. The next morning, I felt compelled to look through the footage from Kentucky. Maybe I could rationalize what I had experienced. I set up my laptop and imported the files. As the videos played, I felt a mix of anticipation and dread. The images flickered across the screen, gravestones, close-ups of eerie shadows, the flickering lanterns, then came the audio. I clicked on the file from Old Hollow Cemetery. As I listened, my heart sank. There was static, but then, faintly, I heard it. A childlike voice. I could make out only a few words, but they chilled me to the bone. Come play with us. I recoiled, the screen casting ghostly light over me. What did that mean? Who were us? I needed answers but felt utterly alone in this mystery. I decided to reach out to an old friend, someone who had always been fascinated by the paranormal that I called Lisa, her voice breaking through my anxiety. Hey! How was the trip? She asked, cheerfully. That I hesitated, the weight of the experiences heavy on my chest. It was intense. Some weird stuff happened. Can we meet? I need to talk. After a quick exchange, we agreed to meet at a coffee shop later that day. But as I hung up, a chill ran through me again. It felt like someone was watching. I scanned the room but saw nothing out of the ordinary. I shook my head, trying to clear my thoughts. Later, at the cafe, I found myself telling Lisa everything: the whispers, the shadows, the strange sensations. As I spoke, I noticed her brow furrowing. You really think it was just in your head? She asked, leaning closer. Honestly, I can't tell anymore. But it felt so real. Lisa pulled out her phone and began typing. There might be something about those cemeteries you don't know, she said. A moment later, she turned the screen towards me. Look at this, she urged, pointing to an article. Suddenly, everything shifted. My world flipped when I saw the words, "The Spirits of Maple Grove." A wave of nausea washed over me. I couldn't ignore it. I reached for the phone, ready to dig deeper, but then a shadow flickered behind Lisa. I blinked, and it was gone. I turned back to her, heart racing. Did you see that? She looked confused, but before she could reply, the lights in the cafe flickered. The air turned thick. I glanced at the door just in time to see something move outside. Then, everything went dark. I stumbled to find my footing in the pitch blackness. The cafe, once buzzing with chatter, was now swallowed by silence. My heart pounded against my ribs, each thud echoing in the void. I reached for Lisa, but my hands grasped only air. Lisa? I called softly, my voice trembling. No answer. The darkness felt heavy, wrapping around me like a cold blanket. I tried to remember the layout of the cafe, but suddenly it felt foreign, like a maze where walls shifted around me. Then, a flicker of light. I squinted toward the source and saw the faint glow of a phone screen illuminating the shadows. Lisa! I shouted again, rushing towards the light. Finally, I found her, her silhouette framed in the dim glow. But her face twisted in a mix of fear and disbelief. What the hell is happening? She whispered, clutching her phone tightly. Before I could answer, a low rumble echoed through the cafe, a distant growl that sent chills down my spine. I turned, instinct pulling me toward the doorway. Outside, a dark shape moved, growing larger as it approached. Do you see that? I breathed, stepping back. Yes, Lisa replied, her eyes wide. What is it? Then I remembered the article. The mention of spirits. What if it's something from the cemetery? I stammered. Before I could finish, the shape lunged forward out of the darkness. A figure stepped into the light, a small child, pale and ethereal, with wide eyes that glimmered like stars. I froze, a mixture of fear and disbelief flooding me. This was real. It wasn't just whispers or shadows anymore. Come play with us, the child said, the voice chillingly cheerful. My pulse raced, instinct telling me to flee. But I couldn't move. What do you want? I managed to ask, my throat dry. The child pointed to the doorway, a gesture that felt both innocent and sinister. Join us. Behind the child, shapes began to form. More figures materialized, swirling around us like a fog. Faces of others, each with a longing look, each matching the child's innocent demeanor. But something was wrong. Their eyes held a darkness that turned my stomach. That I turned to Lisa, panic rising in my chest. We need to go. Now. But as I stepped toward her, the lights flickered back on, bathing the room in harsh brightness. The figures froze, their expressions shifting from inviting to vengeful. That's when I saw it. In the corner of the cafe, a shadowed figure loomed tall and menacing, its form shifting like smoke. I couldn't breathe. It felt like my spirit was being crushed under its gaze. "Run!" Lisa screamed, and finally, I reacted, grabbing her hand and bolting for the exit. The door felt far away, as if the world was stretching. I could hear whispers hissing around us, each step seeming to pull us back. Then something grabbed my shoulder, a cold grip that sent ice through my veins. I turned my head just enough to see the child still standing there, a grin impossibly wide. "Play with us," it sang that in that instant. I couldn't help but wonder what would happen if I stayed. But I forced myself forward, pushing through the door. We stumbled out into the cool night air, gasping for breath, still feeling eyes on our backs, breathless and shaken. I looked at Lisa. "What was that?" But before she could answer, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, the screen lighting up with a new notification. It was a message from an unknown number. "You shouldn't have left so soon." My heart dropped. The street outside felt eerily quiet compared to the chaos we had just escaped. The cool night air bit at my skin, but my mind was racing. I didn't want to linger on what we'd just seen at the cafe. The figures. The child. The dark presence. But Lisa's face was pale, and I knew we couldn't just walk away. "Not yet." "What do we do?" she asked, her voice trembling that I glanced around. The distant glow of streetlights flickered like dying stars. "We need to figure out what that was," I said, trying to sound more confident than I felt. "Maybe there's something at the cemetery. Something that connects to them." Lisa nodded, her eyes darting nervously toward the cafe. "It can't be safe to go back there." "No, we can't go back. We have to look into what happened at the cemetery. There must be records or stories about." I hesitated, unsure how to say it. "Spirits." I pulled my phone from my pocket and opened a search engine. My fingers shook as I typed in Kentucky Cemetery Spirits. A wave of dread washed over me when results populated the screen, all with similar headings: dark tales of restless souls and eerie happenings. "Look," I said, pointing to a headline that caught my eye. 8 unsettling encounters at Kentucky cemeteries that still leave me questioning." Lisa read over my shoulder, and her expression turned serious. "What does it say?" "People have reported seeing figures similar to what we just saw, especially children. It seems they're drawn to certain places. Sometimes they ask to play, like that." I trailed off, the memory of that innocent smile turned malicious still fresh in my mind. There's something about unfinished business. Suddenly, an idea struck me. What if we can help them? Maybe that's why they appeared. They wanted something from us. "That's dangerous, isn't it?" she said, her voice quaking with uncertainty. "It might be. But we can't just ignore this. We need answers." Lisa hesitated, biting her lower lip before nodding. "Okay. Let us go to the cemetery. But I want to be cautious. I don't want to end up like them." I agreed, and we set off. The cemetery was just a few blocks away. As we walked, the night grew thicker with a strange energy. I felt eyes watching us again, not just from the cafe but from the shadows lining the street. When we arrived, the moon was high, casting an eerie glow over the tombstones. Each stone stood like a sentinel, guarding the secrets buried beneath. A chill ran down my spine as I stepped inside. It felt different out here, quiet yet alive, as if the ground itself was breathing. "Where do we start?" Lisa whispered, glancing around nervously. "Let us check the oldest part of the cemetery. They might be more likely to linger there." We moved deeper into the graveyard, the crunch of gravel under our feet sounding too loud in the stillness. As I scanned the rows of headstones, I felt that familiar sensation, the same coldness that had gripped my shoulder back in the cafe. Then I noticed something. A small gathering of flowers in front of an old, dilapidated headstone that looked neglected. "This one," I said. "Someone has been visiting. Maybe their spirit is connected." As we approached, the air grew heavier. The whispers returned, winding around us like a serpent. I felt a hand on my shoulder again, colder this time. Lisa's eyes widened. "Do you feel that?" Before I could answer, a low voice broke through the stillness. "Help me." I froze, realizing the voice was coming from the grave. "Help me," it repeated, echoing against the stones. That my heart raced. I couldn't tell if it was a plea for help or a trick, but one thing was clear: this was just the beginning. The voice lingered in the air like a threat. I glanced at Lisa, whose face was a mix of fear and determination. "What do we do?" she whispered, her eyes darting wildly as if she expected something to leap out from behind the gravestones. "Maybe it's just a trick," I said, trying to sound brave. But deep down, I wasn't convinced. The voice had an unsettling quality, so desperate and hollow. I took a step closer to the grave, drawn in against my better judgment. "Help me," the voice called again, stronger this time. It felt like the air was vibrating with the words, pulling me forward. "I don't know if we should," Lisa murmured, her hand trembling as she gripping my arm. "What if it's dangerous?" But I could see the flowers clearly now, wilted, but arranged carefully, as if someone still cared. "Maybe it needs closure." "Maybe we can help," I said, though my voice wavered slightly. "What if we just observe?" "Maybe we don't need to intervene," Lisa suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "Can we really stand by if it's asking for help?" I felt the weight of the decision hanging over us, heavy and dark. I took a deep breath, unprepared for what came next. Suddenly, the moonlight went dim, as if clouds had rolled in to block its glow. I turned my head skyward, startled. The temperature dropped. The air was stifling, almost electric. "Can you feel that?" Lisa said, scanning the graveyard, her eyes wide. Before I could respond, a sharp gust of wind swept through. It felt almost alive, swirling around us. The flowers at the grave trembled, and a low rumble resonated beneath our feet. It was as if the ground were set to awaken. Then, as though a curtain had been lifted, shadows began to drift through the graves, swirling around us. Just out of the corner of my eye, I saw a figure, a child, small but distinct. The same child from the cafe. "Help me," it beckoned again, standing near the headstone where we lingered. The emptiness in those eyes echoed the plea. Fear gripped me, but something deeper called to me. "Wait," I said, holding my hand up to Lisa. "This could be connected." But even as I spoke, the air thickened with despair. The whispers grew louder, a cacophony of sorrow, promising understanding but begging for something I didn't fully grasp. The ground trembled, and I stumbled back, pulling Lisa with me. "Let us go." "This is wrong," Lisa pleaded, fear evident in her voice. "No," I snapped, fighting my panic. "We need to find out what it wants." As I stepped forward, a shadow lunged from the darkness, sending me crashing to the ground. I gasped, scrambling to regain my footing. The child's voice rang out again, but this time it was distorted, filled with anger. "Help me. You have to help me." Panic surged through me, and before I could process anything further, the night exploded with blinding light, leaving me spellbound. That's when I heard it, the unmistakable sound of chains rattling, deep in the earth, rising toward the surface. I didn't know what it meant, but whatever was down there wanted to come up. And I could sense it wasn't looking for help after all. The blinding light faded as quickly as it came, leaving me blinking in confusion. I could barely see through the swirling shadows. Lisa was at my side, her breath quick and shallow. "What just happened?" she asked, her voice trembling more than before. "I don't know," I stammered, my heart racing. The whispers around us hadn't quieted. In fact, they had intensified, a haunting melody that seemed to resonate with the pulsating ground. The chains rattled again, echoing through the graveyard. With shaky legs, I rose to my feet and squinted into the darkness. I had to know what was emerging from the earth. But as I looked, I noticed the silhouette of the child had grown taller, more defined. It was no longer just a shadow, it was a presence. There was something different about it, something menacing lurking behind those empty eyes. I felt as if we were in the presence of a storm that could unleash its fury at any moment. "Let us back away, please," Lisa urged, pulling on my sleeve. "We shouldn't be here." "No," I insisted, gritting my teeth. "We have to stay. We can't just leave it." "Leave what? What exactly are we dealing with?" she asked, her voice rising with panic. Before I could respond, the child's voice shifted into a low growl. "You should not have come here," it yelled, fury carved into that small face. "Help me. Help us. Who are you?" I shouted back, trying to sound braver than I felt. Was it fear, or was it something else that held my feet in place? The shadow's form began to expand, and soon, ghostly figures began to emerge behind the child. They were lined up like specters waiting in a line that stretched into the depths of the graveyard. I could see their faces twisted in anguish, their mouths moving but no words coming out. "I need you to listen," the child screamed. "You've unleashed something dark." Suddenly, the ground erupted beneath us. Roots and dirt broke apart, and heavy chains clanked violently into the night. I staggered back, crashing into Lisa. She grabbed onto me tightly, eyes wide with terror. I wasn't sure what was happening, but I felt the overwhelming sensation of something sinister slithering toward us. A figure emerged from the earth, tall and lanky, cloaked in shadows. Its visage was indistinct yet commanding. The whispers became a low roar, enveloping us, swirling like a tempest. "No!" I shouted, forcing my eyes to meet the figure. "We're not afraid. We'll help you." But the entity responded with a chilling laugh that echoed in the depths of the graveyard. "Help? You think you can help? You are part of the darkness now." That's when everything turned icy cold. The air thickened, suffocating me, holding me captive in place. I couldn't breathe. Desperation clawed at my throat. Lisa shouted my name, and I could barely hear her over the cacophony. "We have to get out." I had almost turned to flee when I felt something icy wrap around my ankle, dragging me backward. My heart raced. I fought against it, but the grip tightened. Just when I thought I might break free, a voice, deep and echoing, whispered, "Stay, there is no escape." The shadows surged forward, and I caught a glimpse of Lisa's terrified face before everything went dark. Then everything went silent, and in that dreadful stillness, I realized that whatever was here from beneath the ground didn't just want us to listen. It wanted us to join its sorrowful chorus. I woke up gasping, the cold air cutting into my lungs. My surroundings swirled back into focus, and I found myself sprawled on damp grass. The graveyard was eerily quiet now, as if we'd entered a void where sound could not exist. However, the weight of dread still hung thick in the air. "Lisa?" I called, my voice hoarse. Panic gripped me as I noticed she was missing. I bolted upright, scanning the area. The dark shapes of tombstones loomed like sentinels watching over a forgotten past. "Where are you?" I croaked, the shadows seemed to mock me. I stumbled to my feet, taking in the strange stillness surrounding me. The whispers had ceased completely, replaced by a heavy silence that pressed against my ears. My heart raced with uncertainty, but I couldn't afford to lose focus. I needed to find Lisa. "Lisa!" I shouted again, taking a few hesitant steps forward. The moonlight flickered through the clouds, illuminating parts of the graveyard. I moved past the graves, searching every crevice for her familiar face. Then, I spotted something lying in the grass near a large oak tree. My blood turned to ice when I recognized it. A single silver bracelet, a gift I had given Lisa on her birthday. I rushed toward it, dread pooling in my stomach. As I reached down to pick it up, a sudden chill hit me, wrapping around my back like a vice. I froze, heart pounding in my chest as I felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I turned slowly, feeling a knot twist tighter inside of me. "What do you want?" I asked into the darkness, trying to sound braver than I felt. My voice echoed back, swallowed by the shadows. Then I saw them, more figures stepping out into the dim light. Their faces twisted in anguish and despair. They looked like the faces I had seen earlier, but these were different. Their mouths formed silent screams, their eyes pleading. But they weren't looking at me. They were focused on something behind me. I turned around, breath hitching. The tall figure I had seen before emerged from the shadows. It loomed over me, its presence swallowing the light. The laughter returned, deeper now, resonating through the graveyard, pulling at my sanity. "You can feel it, can't you?" It rasped, its voice like gravel sliding down a slope. "The darkness within you." "No!" I screamed, taking a step back as my mind raced. "This can't be happening." But my rebellion didn't matter. The shadows encroached, wrapping around my legs. I stumbled forward, and the figures extended their hands toward me, mouths contorting in a terrifying symphony of sorrow and rage. The twisted faces seemed familiar, and I realized with horror they were the lost souls, waiting, longing for release. In that moment of clarity, I understood. I wasn't just here to help. I was connected to all of this somehow. The darkness didn't just want us to listen, it wanted me to join them. Then I felt a tugging at my mind. Images flickered, whispers, the child, the chains. Everything we'd uncovered rushed back as if the shadows were teaching me their sad history. Desperation shot through me. I had to fight back, but before I could respond, something shifted behind the figure. I turned just as a flash of light shot towards me, illuminating the graveyard. Then, everything froze. And that's when I knew we were not alone. The light illuminated the graveyard, throwing back the shadows for just a moment. What I saw sent a shiver coursing through me. Another figure stood at the edge of the clearing, just beyond the reach of the light. This one looked different, familiar. I squinted, instinctively stepping forward to get a better look. "Lisa?" I dared to whisper, my heart leaping with hope. It had to be her, but the moment was fleeting. The shadows pooled around the other figures, and the familiar face morphed into something unrecognizable. My breath hitched as I dropped the bracelet, realizing I didn't want to see what this was turning into. The tall figure leaned down to my ear, its lips barely moving. "Do you think she can save you?" It chuckled softly, the sound wrapping around me like barbed wire. The darkness tightened its grip, swirling around my waist. Suddenly, Lisa's voice pierced the heavy air, "Help me." It echoed through the graveyard, desperate and muffled, like she was trapped beneath layers of earth. My instincts kicked in. I couldn't let her down. "Where are you?" I shouted back, my voice shaky. I scanned the shadows for her silhouette, but the figures kept swaying, almost as if they were orchestrated to ensnare my focus. "Find me." The voice was frantic now, strained. "Please." It felt like the ground shifted beneath me, pulling at my feet. I couldn't stand still. I darted past the tortured souls, forcing myself to look straight ahead. I stumbled forward into the unknown, heart racing as I pursued her call. With each step deeper into the graveyard, the chill intensified. The lights flickered off, and the world became thickened shadows once again. A deep sense of dread clawed at my insides, but I couldn't stop. I had to push through. Then, something caught my eye, a glimmer in the grass. I crouched, my heart racing, and reached for it. It was another piece of jewelry. A golden locket. I recognized it instantly. Lisa wore it all the time. As I opened it, my heart dropped. Inside was a picture of us, smiling. But the enclosed note sent chills down my spine. It read, "If you find this, it means I've lost my way." The blood drained from my face. I could feel the weight of the lost souls pressing against me. Their silent screams intensified, pulling me closer to despair. I felt the shadows reforming, a thick, suffocating blanket closing in. "Stop!" I shouted, clutching the locket. "I want to let you take me." Suddenly, with a deafening roar, the darkness erupted around me. The figures recoiled, their anguished forms flickering like dying embers, and I felt a rush of energy surge through my veins. Time slowed, and in that moment, I saw it a path through the darkness, leading further into the graveyard that I took a deep breath and ran, propelled by determination. I needed answers. I needed to find Lisa before it was too late, that is when everything went dark again. I woke up lying on cold, damp grass, disoriented and gasping. The air felt heavy, saturated with an unsettling silence broken only by distant rustling. Panic bubbled to the surface. Had I passed out? Was I still in the graveyard? I pushed myself up, scanning my surroundings. The tombstones loomed over me, wearing eerie expressions under the faint light of an overcast sky. Everything felt different now, as if the darkness had shifted while I was unconscious. Then I caught the faint echo of Lisa's voice. "Help me." It was weaker now, stretched thin, like an old record skipping. I shot upright, my heart racing. I couldn't waste time. I saw it then, a flicker of movement to my left. A shadow darted between the graves. "Lisa?" I called, my voice trembling. I dashed toward the figure, hoping it would lead me to her, but as I approached, the shadow morphed into one of the tortured souls I had encountered earlier, its face twisted with anguish. "Turn back," it rasped. "You don't belong here." I stumbled backward, the horrifying realization crashing over me. I was deep in something far worse than I had imagined. "I have to find her," I shouted, though deep down, doubt seeped in like a dark fog. "Leave while you can." The figure reached out, its hand almost brushing my arm. I jumped back, swiping at the air as if to ward it off. I felt the locket thrum against my chest, a soft reminder of my connection to Lisa. I couldn't break down now. "Where is she?" I pressed, refusing to back down any further. "Tell me." The figure hesitated, its form flickering like a dying candle. "She's not here, not anymore. They've taken her." My stomach churned. Who? Who took her? With that, the shadow dissipated into the air, leaving behind a chill that settled deep in my bones. I swiveled around, facing the now empty graveyard, my hands shaking. Were these whispers meant to scare me away? Then, from over the crest of a nearby hill, I noticed a faint light glowing in the distance. Hope surged through me, followed by a nagging doubt. Was this another trap? "Whatever happens, I have to try," I muttered under my breath. I started towards it, each step fueled by desperation. I could feel the presence around me tightening again like a band, warning me to retreat. But I swallowed my fear, certain that Lisa was close. As I reached the top of the hill, the source of the light became clearer. It was a lantern hanging from an ancient tree, glowing eerily amidst the shadows. Beneath it, I searched for answers, but all I found was an open book lying on the ground. I picked it up, flipping through pages filled with jagged, frantic handwriting. Suddenly, I recognized one of the names scrawled near the center, someone who had died tragically in the cemetery long ago. Why was their name here? Then I heard the unmistakable sound of movement behind me. Someone was coming. I turned, and my breath hitched in my throat. The darkness didn't just surround me, it felt like it was alive, breathing, closing in with a chilling intent. I gripped the book tightly as I stood there, heart pounding, and then a figure stepped into the flickering light of the lantern. It was a woman, her clothes tattered, her hair hanging in disarray. A halo of shadows encircled her, making it hard to discern the features of her face. She raised her head slightly, and I felt a jolt of recognition. No, not her. You, I breathed, my pulse quickening. You were one of them, from the grave. Yes, she said, the word escaping her lips like a whisper carried on the wind. You shouldn't have come back. You've awakened what was long buried. Where's Lisa? I demanded, ignoring the growing panic in my chest. Tell me where she is. The woman tilted her head at me, and for a fleeting moment, there was a flicker of pity in her dark eyes. Beyond the veil, beyond the shadows, she replied cryptically. She called to you, and the shadows answered. They demand more. I felt the ground beneath me tremble lightly, the air vibrating with an almost malevolent energy. Stop this. You don't have to do this. Let her go. But never have I, she said. To let one free is to untie the box of chaos. At that moment, the whispers erupted again, a chorus of tormenting cries swelling from the graves around me. I pressed my hands to my ears, but it only intensified, burrowing deeper into me. I quickly glanced back at the book. Perhaps it held answers, clues, anything that could help me understand how to free Lisa. Leave that behind, it won't help you, she hissed, stepping closer. Her eyes glowed briefly in the dim light, revealing a depth of sorrow. Why are you doing this? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. What do you want? An escape, she stated simply, her tone flat. You can help, if you choose. You have their spirit already, you feel it, don't you? I shook my head violently. No. I want to be like you. For a moment, the anger flared up in her presence, causing the light from the lantern to flicker wildly as if responding to her fury. I took a step back, bumping into the ancient tree, feeling the rough bark press into me as I tried to steady my breath. Please. I called, my voice breaking. I need her. You don't have to be trapped here. Let her out, and I'll fulfill our curse. She finished, the disdain draping her words with bitterness and grief. You think it's so simple? There are layers to this darkness, intertwined with grief and despair. One cannot summon light without igniting the inferno. Something cold gripped my heart as I processed her words. It was a trap, yes, but I could feel that Lisa was still out there. I wouldn't let despair claim her. What do I need to do? I whispered, my resolve hardening in spite of my fear. The woman leaned closer, her voice barely above a breath. You must confront the shadow source, the keeper of their promise. There is a tomb, you must find it, only then can light seep through. What tomb? I asked, heart racing as the whispers continued to swirl around like a storm. Follow the trail of names, she murmured, eyes narrowing. And believe, if you wish to sever the link. As she began to fade, enveloped in shadows, I felt the weight of urgency pressing upon me. I will find her. I shouted, though it echoed off into the void, swallowed by the darkness. The woman's last smile lingered, bittersweet and caged with despair. Gathering my wits, I advanced past the lantern into the heart of the cemetery. The weight on my chest reaffirmed it, I had to find Lisa. I couldn't lose her. As I moved through the headstones, my eyes scanned the names etched into the stone, searching for something that called to me. It was suffocatingly quiet. The energy crackled in the air, urging me deeper into the graveyard. Past the crumbling stones, fate churned. I touched one of the nearby graves, a name flashing in my mind, but every face seen now tormented me with despair until one name stopped me cold. Harper Baker, I whispered, heart hammering. The name was written in a bold, haunting script, filling me with a sense of foreboding and familiarity. This was a name that had appeared in the article Lisa showed me, the one tangled in local folklore. The Keeper. I breathed, and the darkness around me seemed to shift, whispering for my attention, and then I saw it, a light, dull yet persistent, just beyond a copse of trees. Clutching the book and the locket tightly, I broke through the brush and toward the source. What awaited me brought equal amounts of dread and hope. There, standing amidst the insatiable darkness, was the tomb, ancient stone with etchings and carvings worn by time, a portal to the unknown. My heart raced as I stepped closer, whispering, "Please, let her be there. Let her be safe." I reached out for the cold stone, fingers trembling. A tremor shot through the ground beneath, and a flash of youthful laughter filled the air, the echoes of Lisa's voice mingling with the shadows. It felt both inviting and terrifying, a warning that whatever lay within would demand a price. That I steeled myself and drew in a shaky breath. I had to open it, had to confront whatever darkness ruled here. I placed my palms firmly against the tomb's face, calling out, "I will find you, Lisa. I will bring you back." I didn't know if it was bravado or desperation, but as I pressed harder, the whispers surrounded me, twisting in anger. The night began to scream, but even then, a thread of light broke through the cracks of my fear, curling around me as I pulled with all my strength. "Together!" I called, and with that, I felt Lisa echo back, caught in the folds of time and darkness, and as the tomb groaned under my pressure, shadows swirled violently, conflicting chaos bursting forth. The world fell into chaos around me, and just as it felt like I might drown in the darkness, I echoed back, "You want to take her." The world faded into a blinding light as shadows collapsed, spiraling away. I felt the weight of darkness wane, felt hope surging in my veins. But as the dust settled, whispered promises threaded through the edges of my mind, leaving behind more questions than answers. With a sudden quiet, I found myself alone once again beside the tomb, breathless and trembling. But there was no longer a sense of anguish. Instead, I stepped back, casting my gaze to the soft dawn breaking above the horizon. Lisa was out there. She had to be. As I took a hard breath, I knew that the fight against darkness wasn't over, not by a long shot. But maybe, just maybe, I was on the right path. That I didn't turn back towards the shadows. The battle had just begun.